This is Prince Hanley coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure healing, Holy Spirit, miracle-working love. You know, I want to talk to you today about kids, about children, about young people. You know, if God would have looked at most of us and what we did when we were young kids, we would be in a trash can. You know, I was thinking about some things I did that would have caused me to absolutely go ballistics if some kid or one of my children or any kid had done this to me. I remember when I was a kid, they used to have these trucks that went down the street. They delivered milk and they delivered other things. And it looked like the drivers were standing up and their doors were wide open. But I was always amazed by those things. And my parents had just put in 2 brand new carpets, one in the living room, one in the dining room, and they had been busy redecorating the house. Well, I was in the dining room, and one morning I just was in my imaginary truck, you know, the kind with the open door like I described to you, where the driver could seem to stand up while he was driving. So I'm driving my imaginary truck. I don't know, I was probably 4 years old, maybe 3. And so I hopped out of the truck and I urinated on the new carpet. And then I hopped back in the truck and shifted gears in my imaginary truck and took off again. Well, it wasn't long till my father, bless his heart, came in the room, and he had been outdoors, and he said, "Who did that? What happened here?" And I said, "Daddy, the dog did that." Well, I had 2 dogs. One died, and I had another, and both of them were named Spot. Not very creative, I'll grant you. And I said, "Daddy, the dog did that. Spot did that." My dad commenced to grab the dog and rub his nose in the urine in the carpet and beat him with a newspaper. And after that, cleaned up the mess, and, you know, I kept messing around in my imaginary truck. You know, I was thinking about that. That would have driven me absolutely off the chart if that had happened to me. I don't know how God can put up with the stuff we've done in our lives. I remember another time my parents were redecorating the kitchen, and they had installed brand new linoleum flooring. Well, they were painting and doing the trim, too, and there was a full gallon of kind of a Kelly green paint on the kitchen counter. And so I thought I'd help them, and it looked like the lid was on there. So I picked up that gallon of paint, put it on my shoulder. Wouldn't you know, the top wasn't on it, and it went all down my back, poured the whole gallon onto the brand new linoleum flooring. You know, my father and mother must have had very cushioned hearts, because I don't see how they kept from having heart attacks right then. I was thinking today about reaching children, reaching kids, reaching young people. I remember a time I had been ministering in the open air in downtown Los Angeles, and I don't know why, but I decided to go home a completely different way, maybe because of traffic or whatever. I got into a city I had never been in. You know, there's like 12 million people in the whole environs around the L.A. Metroplex and the surrounding cities. And I got into a city. I'd never been in that city, never been in that area. I got lost. I was finally in a residential neighborhood, and I'm wanting to get home. I'm hungry, and I was driving down the street, and all of a sudden, kids jerked up a rope in front of my car. There was a kid on one side and a kid on the other, and a bunch of kids down around there, and I slammed my brakes on, and then they ran to the other side, and they're laughing and everything, and I'm so mad. I'm really burning up. So I decided I'm going to drive around and tell those kids what I'm thinking. And I drove around the block, made several turns, came back, and I found them. And then the Lord told me, "Don't you dare get mad at those kids. Remember what you used to be like." So the Lord prompted me, "Don't get mad at these kids. I want you to talk to them about Jesus." So I invited one little boy to the car. I wasn't even parked. And he came up to my car, and I said, "I want to give you something." I said, "Has anybody ever told you about Jesus?" And you know what the guy said to me? Bear in mind, I'm in a metroplex area of all the cities around L.A., and the kid says to me, "Are you Brother Handley?" I like to fell out of my car. I said, "Yes. How do you know?" He said, "Oh, I didn't really know, but last night I was in another city, and a man told me about you and how you loved God and what you did and how God does miracles through you." And I said, "Well, did he tell you about Jesus?" He said, "Yes." And he said, "I received Jesus last night." And I said, "Well, did he tell you about the baptism in the Holy Spirit?" He said, "No, he didn't." So I explained to him clear. I laid my hands on him, and the Spirit of God, the Ruach Elohim, came upon him. and another language came out of his mouth. He was having the Bible experience of speaking in tongues, as we read about in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, the Jewish New Testament, in the book of Acts, chapter 2. Here I was, lost in a completely different area, never been in that city before, and God crossed my path with one young man who had received Messiah the night before, but had not received the baptism in the Ruach Elohim, Spirit of God. You know, God knows what's going on, my friend. He knows the little details. He's got the hairs of our head numbered. He's got our tears in a bottle. He knows when one sparrow falls to the ground dead. My friend, there's nothing that God doesn't know about your life, and He loves you, my friend. He cares for you just as much as for a little child. Reach out to the children, my friend. Reach out to the young people. You know, if you reach young people, you're reaching the next generation. And also, if you're reaching young people, you're reaching the mass of the population. In most countries, 50% of the population is under the age of 15. So you're reaching the mass of the populace. And then also, when you reach young people, you're reaching somebody that has a whole lifetime to serve the Lord. My friend, God is a loving God. He's a forgiving God. I'm glad He's forgiven me not only of my sins, but all the stupid junk I did when I jumped out of my imaginary truck and urinated on my father's new carpet, and when I spilled a whole gallon of paint on the new flooring my parents had just installed in the kitchen. All the stuff and the stupid things that we've done, God still loves us, my friend. He's a loving God. He's a good Father. I had a wonderful father and a wonderful mother, but I'll tell you, our Father in heaven outshines any parents here on earth. My friend, today, whatever you're going through, God knows the details. And you may not be a young person, but you can be young in your heart. As a matter of fact, the Bible tells us that unless we become like little children, we cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. You can have that new birth today if you haven't already. And if you have, maybe like that young boy on the street when they pulled up the rope in front of my car, you need the baptism in the Holy Spirit. Just pray and ask the Messiah, Yeshua, to come into your heart and to pour out His Spirit upon you today. My friend, He will give you power, and then you can reach the young people of the world. This has been your friend, Prince Handley, coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure, healing, Holy Spirit, miracle-working love. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai.